So, Nancy Drew is on her way to Prague. As we know, she has a history of touring the world solving mysteries in over 12 different countries and 15 states. To follow her tradition of traveling, Nancy Drew is diving into her next mystery abroad once again in Her Interactive's latest upcoming entry in this long-running series of quirky PC games, Mystery of the Seven Keys. It has been nearly 4 years since Nancy's last game, the 33rd installment in this Games for Girls series, Midnight in Salem. As most die-hard Nancy fans may know, that game was met with quite a bit of pushback from disappointed fans after it became clear that it was not the same level of quality or style of point-and-click mystery game they were used to receiving from the company up until that point. This is mostly due to a company-wide restructuring of Her Interactive, changes in creative direction, and a massive loss of the original team that worked on all of the OG Nancy Drew video games. Personally, I felt as if this was when I started to believe that the vision and charm of the original games was no longer present and never would be again, due to the original writers and people who worked on the game literally not being a part of Her Interactive any longer. Even the original voice actress for Nancy, Lonnie Manila, was replaced to the disappointment of many fans who became attached to her, let's call it memorable, delivery of the ace teen detective.
Still stuck in the ditch.
After the disaster that was Midnight in Salem's launch, I had resigned to the idea that there would ever be another Nancy Drew game ever again. The landscape of the game industry had changed too drastically since the early 2000s and 2010s, when these games were still, at least somewhat marketable, and were able to be seen on the shelves at your local Target or Best Buy. Now it feels like these games are just a collective childhood memory many of us share. So you can imagine how shocked I was when I first heard that Mystery of the Seven Keys had even been greenlit in the first place. Then came the radio silence following its announcement. Then the cryptic messages hidden in puzzles on oddly timed dates, leading all of the fans to believe that Her Interactive was operating in poor taste, playing some kind of sick April Fool's joke on all of us. And then one day, after 4 years of waiting, I randomly come across the full trailer for Mystery of the Seven Keys on my YouTube feed. So, I would describe the reaction to the recent trailer among the Nancy Drew Clue crew as cautiously optimistic. Not a bad place for the fan base to be after the doom and gloom we all felt after Midnight in Salem's release. I'm a little confused about the direction the marketing team for this game was going, if there even was a marketing team at all. It seems they've been more active on social media, posting things like development updates as the years have gone by. I do appreciate the fact that much of the marketing was distributed via actual puzzles themselves. That felt like it really catered to the core of what Nancy Drew fans want: good, engaging puzzles and a solid mystery. Other than that, they posted many screenshots of areas Nancy can explore in the game itself, but they didn't actually provide a release date for the game until a little less than a month before the game's release. Maybe that was a smart move, so people would be more likely to keep the game fresh in their minds and purchase it rather than just forget about it since the planned date was so far off. Ever since Her Interactive switched to the Unity engine, things have looked different. Additionally, with the awkwardness of getting used to the new engine and the sheer complexity of it compared to what we were used to before, the Nancy games have not been churned out as quickly as we once had them. This sounds a little risky to me if Her Interactive genuinely wants to keep giving Nancy a chance, since it doesn't leave much room for failure anymore. Each game has got to be at least a little bit of a hit, or else they'll probably be risking going into the red from a financial standpoint. So there's another reason why I have to pray that this game is not only better, but is spoken about more online. It appears like they've at least upped the visual fidelity of this game, which is an aspect many fans complained about regarding Midnight in Salem. The Nancy Drew games have always had a heavy visual focus on scenery. Nancy can only turn in very specific directions, so the game developers wanted each limited way she can turn to show a new scene full of life and substance with plenty of clues to snuff out and puzzles to find. In Midnight in Salem, many visual scenes looked flat, and if you wanted to find a visually appealing scenery, you had to go out of your way to search for it. Thankfully though, it seems from the new trailer that Mystery of the Seven Keys is at least putting more effort into visual detail, something the classic Nancy Drew games valued quite highly. I have to give props to the way the NPCs are looking as well. They do look a little updated, as they should, since it has been many years since the last Nancy game on PC. They still aren't fully there in terms of matching the game industry's standards for realistic 3D models, but I think they're okay enough that they'd satisfy the average Nancy Drew enjoyer. I just wonder if that is truly all Her Interactive wants to do with the release of this game. After all, just because someone grew up with the Nancy Drew games does not necessarily mean that they would be willing to set aside the time and money to play the latest game in the series simply because it is the latest game in the series. So how does Her Interactive plan to sell Mystery of the Seven Keys to those fans, let alone a new audience? In Midnight in Salem, it felt like their attempt at capturing a new, younger audience was by cheap thrills and random jump scares that had nothing to do with the game's overall story. I really hope that we don't have a repeat situation of that with Mystery of the Seven Keys, but from what I saw in the trailer, there will probably be at least a few examples of these random jump scares and shadowy figures that aren't even creepy at all.
The real monsters in Prague don't always look it.
I really hope the game's atmosphere and intrigue can sell me on this and get me in that spooky Nancy mood, if that's really what they want to go for with this game. It seems like they're also leaning into an alchemy thing, which reminds me of The Curse of Blackmore Manor, which I know is a fan favorite. That being said, I believe it would be a detriment to this game if it leaned too close to a game that already exists. In order to get a better idea about what Her Interactive should be doing, I decided to ask someone who just recently began playing Nancy Drew PC games about what entices them to want to continue playing them. Since they don't have those rose-colored nostalgia goggles on them like I do, they may be someone Her Interactive wants to pay attention to learning to please. They answered the following in response to this question: what about a Nancy Drew game sucks you in and makes you want to complete the game? They answered that they enjoy the feeling of exploring a variety of new places. They want to be surprised by different types of locations in one game that they may not have expected to see, and they want to be able to solve puzzles that make logical sense to be located there. Not only that, but they want to solve puzzles that show the player that they are progressing. They want to be rightfully rewarded for completing a difficult puzzle, not just doing one that has very little consequence on helping Nancy solve her mystery. Finally, it's that overarching mystery that is also very important. Having an intriguing mystery that the player can genuinely care about solving will be pivotal to the success of Mystery of the Seven Keys, as it was with any of the other Nancy Drew PC games. Sadly, Mystery of the Seven Keys' synopsis at this point is kind of all over the place in my opinion. I've always been less interested in the themes of jewelry theft and cybercrime whenever they're used in a Nancy Drew PC game, but maybe they can spin it in a way that'd be more interesting to me. I don't want to just shut it down immediately just because the overall type of mystery isn't one I'd usually poke my head towards. I actually usually think Nancy is at its most memorable when its mystery concepts goes towards more wacky and quirky territory, like trying to explain and ground paranormal activity in reality, or ghost dogs, or something that really makes you want to get to the bottom of it, to learn how Her Interactive went about trying to make all of this wild stuff seem believable, successfully or not. For those watching this video now who have played all of, or at least a few of the Nancy Drew games, what is it that motivated you to want to continue solving the game's mystery and complete the game? Deep down, I wished that the final words in the recent trailer weren't true.
Sometimes the past
Something's following me.
should remain in the past.
Sometimes the past should remain in the past? God, I wish we could have had more Nancy Drew games in its classic style, or at least the style Sea of Darkness employed, but maybe this is Her Interactive's weird way of sending a message to the longtime fans. A message that says, in this economy, as a bottom line, we need to sell copies, and we don't think what you want is going to do that based on our bullshit data. Well, I just have one message for Her Interactive regarding the upcoming release of Mystery of the Seven Keys.
Don't it up.
But, well, what can we do other than wait and see how the game turns out? I will be checking out Mystery of the Seven Keys as a forever Nancy Drew superfan, but will you be willing to give it the same chance? Let me know down below in the comments. If you'd like to hear more about my thoughts on Nancy Drew and other girly games, please subscribe and hit that like button, and remember to breathe, it's gonna be okay, we're gonna keep on keeping on. Bye now!